Great. So, thinking we start off by talking a little bit about some projects we're working on, and then kind of jumping into the Borrowing Magnolia story.
Awesome. Sounds great.
All right. So, anyone want to jump in and talk to Stephanie a little bit?
Should we all introduce ourselves?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm Eric. I'm going to be at UVA next year. I'm getting into a lot of mobile and web app programming. So, yeah.
I'm Diana. I'll be going to UVA next year as well, and I'm focused in web development.
I'm Shachang. I'm going to be attending University of Michigan next year. I have a studying computer vision.
So, hi, I'm Danny. I'm one of the co-founders of this program, and I'm a rising sophomore at Ohio State.
I'm Jason. I'm actually one of the co-founders too, at Harvard right now, but I'm working with Danny and Brad.
Cool.
I'm Daniel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm Daniel, sophomore in high school.
I'm Andrew. I'm going to be a first year at UVA next year. I do a lot of Java.
Awesome.
I'm going to be a rising student next year in high school. I just finished up 2 semesters and all of it.
I'm Rahul. I'm a resident teacher and I do iOS and development.
So, Shane, do you want to give just a quick overview of all the projects we've done so far, real quick?
So, first week we did two mobile projects, one for iOS, one for Android. The iOS one was a Sudoku solver. People put their own Sudoku puzzles in the app or solve it for them. If it was impossible to solve, it's always impossible to solve. The second one was an Android app where it was basically a game where you had a bunch of points and you had a bunch of lines. And you draw all the lines without going over the lines again. You have to do it all in one go, that kind of thing. So we spent about 2.5 years. Then the next 2 days, we were in 2 separate web apps. They're both chat applications, basically using the same framework, Node.js and other pockets. So the main goal with that was to focus on the security aspect. So once we developed our 2 other teams' app, and yeah, and now we are working as a big group to make a mobile app that helps motivate users.
Cool. Awesome. So it's a tiny bit hard to hear some of you in the back. So when you talk, if you could just talk a little bit louder, that would be awesome.
Sounds good. We'll talk louder.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, we just learn more about Borrowing Magnolia story, and then we have a bunch of questions for you.
Awesome. So we hold on one second. Hold on, sorry. That mouse is controlling my computer. Sorry. Someone's using my remote mouse and it's controlling the cursor on my computer. They're trying to use it with their computer, so sorry about that. Yeah, so we started, I have 2 co-founders. We started Borrowing Magnolia a little over a year ago. The idea came from a personal experience for one of my co-founders, but it also the 2 of them have worked in the industry, the wedding industry, for over 8 years and have worked with over 5,000 brides to date. And what we realized was that the shopping experience for the bride today is the exact same as it's been since the 50s, even earlier. And so it just kind of seems crazy that technology hasn't really disrupted that space at all. And so we started with what our current website is today, which is a managed peer-to-peer service where we help women that have wedding dresses in their closet So right now that's an inventory worth $20 billion. We're helping these women make money off of them by renting them out or selling them online to brides that want to save. And what we found through that process is there's actually a ton of traffic online of women that are looking for wedding dresses, but there's really just nowhere to transact. We're one of a few websites where women can actually buy or borrow a wedding dress. And so we see a huge opportunity to be the go-to platform for brides that are looking for wedding dresses, and create a really smart technology-based discovery and transaction process. And so we launched our site in July of last year, and we've done about $80,000 in sales to date. Our model actually, what's cool about our model is we actually make money off of the supply side. So anyone who gives us a dress is paying to put their dress in our collection. And then we make money off the demand side. We do at-home try-ons, and we do sales and rentals that obviously people pay for. So yeah, I mean, we got into Techstars. We started Techstars in mid-June. And so I think we're in week 5 now. It's a 13-week program. And so during Techstars, we're just really focused on figuring out kind of what our scalable, repeatable business model is. So really figuring out product market fit and growing as quickly as we can.
Awesome. So we have a bunch of questions for you. Some are like more general, some are more related to you guys have opportunity, and others are more related to technology. But I'll jump in with one kind of related to the accelerator program. Do you think all startups should use accelerator programs, or like what made this the right time for Marlon and Julia to participate?
So, okay, I'm going to repeat the question just to make sure I understood you correctly. It's just kind of breaking up a little bit, but it sounds like you're asking, do you think all startups should go through an accelerator program? What made this the right time for us? Why did we pick Techstars? Is that kind of the gist of the question?
Exactly.
Okay, so I think it totally varies company to company. I think that there is absolute benefit for all companies to go through an accelerator, but I think based on what company you are kind of dictates what accelerator would be beneficial for you. Originally, we did not think we would go through an accelerator just because we raised some money on our own and we were growing the platform and we felt like we kind of like had our roadmap. We then decided to raise some more money and we had a hard time raising a second round just because we hadn't started to show real like hockey stick growth at that time. And it was just kind of like we were in a unique industry and it was a weird, kind of weird stage for us to be raising. And so we ended up applying because there's, usually an investment component to it, and we felt like we would get connected with people who could kind of help us take this opportunity and make it more of like an exponentially growing venture. And so we applied, and then we ended up closing money while we were waiting to find out if we got in. So we closed another round. And then at that point, it just became like an analysis of like, what does the network look like? Like, what doors is this going to open? And Techstars, like specifically, has one of the best reputations for having a really crazy big network that is super, super helpful. And so for us, we came here because of the number of stories where startups like came in thinking they knew what they were doing, and through the Techstars network and through the kind of like intense experience, were kind of forced to look at their business a little bit more critically, and it really pushed them to grow more quickly and really establish a business that was meeting a need. And so we're already seeing that, and it's been super, super helpful even so far.
Awesome. All right, next question is, have you found the accelerator environment to be more competitive or more collaborative?
I would say it's like 95% collaborative. All of the companies in Techstars are so different. Like, we have a couple hardware companies, we have a lot of B2B companies. We're we're one of, I think, 2 or 3 B2C companies. And so that kind of like naturally splits people off. There's also a huge variance in where people are. Like there's a couple, so there's 10 companies in the program. There are a couple that are like basically pre-product, pre-revenue. There are a couple that are like 35 employees and super, super established. And so that kind of helps to space us all out. And so it really is a collaborative environment.
How have you found like advisors or mentors that are experts in the wedding business?
So are you asking, so how have we found advisors in the wedding space?
Yeah.
That's a good question. So there actually aren't a whole lot because the wedding industry is pretty antiquated. And so to find people who are thinking about it in the way that we're thinking about it and really like technology focused is a little bit more challenging. But the good thing about it is because it is pretty small, it's actually a pretty like tight-knit community. And so pretty much every conversation we have, somebody's like, oh, do you know this person at this wedding startup? And so we've built a pretty good network of CEOs and investors and advisors that are familiar with the wedding space. But within Techstars, we actually have been actively engaging with mentors who are not in the wedding space because I think it's super helpful to kind of bring an outside perspective to this industry. And we can learn a lot, whether it's optimizing user experience or it's, figuring out what platform we should be using from a technology perspective. Like that information is really cross-vertical. Sorry, I can't understand. That one question was super broken up.
I'll repeat that. What tools do you use for time management?
Oh, perfect. Now it's super clear. For time management, we use Trello right now. So one thing that we had when we got to Techstars, they had us go through this process of, have you guys heard of a Kanban board? Anyone heard of a Kanban board?
No.
Yeah, so we have like an offline Kanban board that we use to track our tasks, and basically we've got different phases. We've got like what we're working on this month, this week, today. Then we've got a column for what we're doing, for things that are in the pin, which means like we can't do it until something else happens. And then ultimately if it's done and then finally accepted. And so we use like, we all have like big whiteboards. You can actually see one behind me right there is a Kanban board. We've been using those in the office. And then because 2 of my teammates actually had to go back to Athens for the week, we've been using Trello as like a digital Kanban board, which has been super, super helpful. Developers, you guys probably all use that a lot. But for us technical folk, it's a new concept and it's super helpful.
Okay, so I have a question. So, what was the largest obstacle you found when launching the web platform?
So, biggest. Say that again.
For the technology portion, like what was the largest obstacle?
Well, okay, so there's multiple parts to this question. So we actually outsourced. So how many of you all are developers? Most of you, all of you, some of you, everyone is? Okay. So we are not a technical co-founding team, and so we actually outsourced our the development of our website, which I think was fine for our MVP, but we ended up going, because we had a semi-complicated e-commerce flow, our developer that we worked with decided to build a completely custom platform versus like looking at Shopify or Magento or Spree Commerce. And so he started from scratch, and was super, super buggy, just because he was reinventing the wheel on a lot of features that already exist in other platforms. So it's custom Ruby on Rails, and it worked fine, but we have, like, over the last year discovered a ton of bugs in, like, our shopping cart, or he deployed like a promo code and it broke our try-on function. And so we brought on a developer in-house for Techstars, who is full stack developer. He has a much greater level of proficiency than the developer we used for our MVP. And once he kind of, like, poured over the code, was just like, you guys shouldn't have gone custom. Like, we really should have tried to use Magento or Spree. So if you're ever building something that's e-commerce, like, try to repurpose as much as you possibly can, because for us, by going custom, every single feature we wanted, we had to build from scratch, whereas, like, Magento and Spree and Shopify have, like, really great plugins that, you know, you could get a relatively, like, entry-level developer to kind of integrate. Or, you know, obviously you guys are all technical, so you could integrate much more efficiently than having to build everything yourself.
Are you guys looking to expand the technology at all to mobile?
Yes, absolutely. So right now, I mean, we're mobile enabled, but it's absolutely not mobile optimized, and we don't have an app at all. Once we start, through Techstars, we're hoping to kind of figure out, like, what's our customer experience. We've got a huge kind of task that we have to attack, which is figuring out how to map the dresses to the customer. And so whether that's, like, a dress builder function, or it's kind of like a dress discovery function. And once we really lock that down, I think that'll be the sort of, like, trigger for us to build an app. So, like, if we figure out that, like, people really want, like, a personalized, like, dress discovery experience, like, if we turn that into an app,
right,
I think that's when it becomes worth it. If it's just, like, the plain shopping function, it's probably less a priority. But if we can figure out some sort of, like, way to engage with people on mobile in a way that, you know, gets them in our funnel, then we'll probably start focusing more on mobile.
Gotcha. So I have a question. You kind of piqued my interest when you mentioned that you outsourced code at first. So I know you found that some things were difficult to do and things were buggy, but did you find any, like, security issues or anything serious that you were more concerned about?
Okay, so I heard security issues and then it cut out.
I just said security issues, like more serious things.
So, like, worried about, like, credit card information, or, like, not too worried. So the developer we worked with is out of Athens, Georgia. We knew him pretty well. Like, he knew what he was doing for a pretty basic, like, e-commerce platform, but just kind of taking it from, like, basic e-commerce to what we needed it is where I think there were some kind of deficiencies. But, like, you know, we work with Braintree as our payment gateway, and they've got, like, PCI compliant documentation, and so you kind of have to go through a process to make sure you're an authorized online dealer and make sure you're handling that information correctly. But I mean, yeah, outsourcing it, it's always a concern. Quality control is always a concern, and some for founders that are non-technical, that is particularly concerning, to not be able to have the ability to kind of, like, do your due diligence in the way that, like, technical founders can. So
so you mentioned that a big part of what you're doing in Techstars right now is kind of figuring out the customer experience.
Yep.
What sort of testing or what sort of testing are you guys doing on that part? Are you doing A/B testing? Are you doing focus groups with your customers? Are you running, like, how are you figuring it out?
Yeah, so this is, I mean, Techstars, I think, has a great model for this. So the first 4 weeks are all about customer development. So it's all about interviewing customers, doing surveys, focus groups. And so like this week, for example, we're interviewing 10 boutiques, 5 designers, and doing a digital survey of 100 brides. And so we're using a platform called, like High Point. I'm drawing a blank. I can send you the resource, but we're using an app that builds really, really great surveys. So it kind of jazzes up the Google form and makes people actually like want to answer. So we're doing a lot of that, and then now we're kind of switching into more digital tests. And so an example, like one of our hypotheses is that, 2 hypotheses actually that we're testing. So the first one is that, sorry, it's getting really loud in here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. It's particularly loud today. There's like double the number of people in the office. So two things we're testing. First, search is one of our biggest customer acquisition tools, for lack of a better word, just because there's little competition for people who are Googling these dresses online. And so one thing we're doing to test, right now we've got 400 dress pages live that people are, can actively search and find on Google. We are going to expand that to, 5,000 pages without actually getting the inventory. So we're just going to build the pages and then have like a call to action on the page that says, tell us how you want to find this dress, like out of stock, but tell us how you want to find this dress. And so what we're going to measure is to see what that does to our organic traffic and what engagement looks like, because our hypothesis is that the more pages we have with, detailed headers, the more customers we'll be able to acquire. Another test that we're doing is, we think Pinterest is a huge source of customers for us because there's a lot of activity on Pinterest around weddings. And especially with the emergence of buyable pins, we want to test how powerful Pinterest is for us. So we're going to, make sure all of our images are up on Pinterest with rich tagging, hook up our Google Analytics, make sure we've got like goals being tracked to see how many people come from Pinterest to convert for an at-home try-on, which is like our first kind of step in our funnel. And then the second phase of that is we're going to get influencers on Pinterest. We'll pay them like $25 a pin to pin our dresses and see what that does, because what that'll do is just kind of expedite the testing. It'll just put our pins in front of more people more quickly and see kind of what our conversion looks like. We also do a ton of Facebook ad tests. So if you guys ever want to walk through that, I can kind of walk through our methodology for doing A/B testing with Facebook ads. But then we will eventually move. So we just talked to a front-end developer designer yesterday who he was talking about like doing A/B testing on like your site design and saying like really it's not worth it until you get to like tens of thousands of users hitting the page. And so we're almost there. So once we get a bigger customer base, we'll probably do some A/B testing on like just to do some like funnel optimization.
Right. So what has been the most effective marketing tool for you guys? Is it just like Google search?
Yeah, I mean, so to be honest, we haven't spent any money on marketing to date. We've done some testing to figure out like what our cost per click is with Facebook ads, and it's extremely low. And so what we kind of use that data in pitching and just kind of like general confidence that we can acquire brides pretty efficiently, but we haven't poured a lot of money into it. So right now we're getting 70% of our traffic is from organic search. But once we start pouring money into marketing, I think Facebook will be huge. We want to get on buyable pins with Pinterest. Less probably like Google AdWords, but maybe for specific designers. And then looking at affiliate models, so figuring out how to like set up good referral networks, because the wedding industry is sort of like inherently viral. People get married in hordes, so making sure to like set up some referral structure is a priority for us.
So it sounds like, I mean, you guys are doing a lot are you guys starting to grow the team?
All I heard was grow the team. One of you is super clear, and the other I can't hear the other one.
Yeah. So I was saying you guys are doing a lot right now on multiple fronts. How big is the team right now, and are you guys use some of the capital that you bring to expand the team?
Yeah, so you're asking about our growth plan for our team. So yeah, right now it's 3 founders. We've got our lead engineer. We have 2 part-time people that are just like operational, that are really keeping the wheels turning while we're at Techstars. They're, you know, helping us at the warehouse and doing a lot of like sales and just like customer service. Kind of depending on what route we decide to go while we're at Techstars. So if we, you know, decide to make a big engineering push, we're going to be hiring more developers. If it's more of a sales and marketing push, you know, potentially a marketing hire. Our team is pretty proficient in sales, marketing, and operations. So my guess is our hiring plan is going to be mostly technical. So expanding, I think we have a pretty big hole on the front end side of things and just designer. So our developer's full stack, but to have a designer developer would be helpful.
So going back more towards fundraising, how did you guys go about raising your seed round, and what methods did you or did angels use in placing a valuation on what was like a very young business at the time?
Yeah, so this is the $1 million question. Fundraising is always a challenge. For us, it was a really time-intensive process. So I basically was full-time focused on fundraising as the CEO and just having as many meetings as possible. We found, so the way like we would kind of find our target list is we would look at companies that have something in common with us, whether it's like wedding industry or it's share economy or even like e-commerce or, you know, disruptive retail. So like a Warby Parker, and kind of look at their investor list like way back in the beginning. And then plug all of those names into LinkedIn and see like how we're connected to those people, and send all those connections an email saying like, this is what we're doing. We really want to talk to this person. Like, would you mind introducing us? And then, you know, just having like hundreds of meetings. And then the trick about fundraising is the hardest part is getting the lead investor. And then once you get the lead investor, it's much easier. You'll have a lot of people that kind of say, oh, I'm really interested in this and I'd love to give you money. And then it just kind of doesn't go anywhere. And those are people that, you know, will probably follow on if you get a good lead investor. Not guaranteed, but they might. Another source, like we didn't do anything on AngelList, but I know doing a syndicate on AngelList could be really effective, depending on where you are in your round. But yeah, it's just like being extremely focused on finding that lead investor, and trying to get people to tell you yes or no as quickly as possible. If they tell you kind of maybe, then it could end up being a really big time suck.
Right. So let's see. What was the largest point of disconnect that you found when meeting with potential investors? Like, where did people just not get what you did?
Yeah, I mean, this is something we even struggle with now. So depending on who you're talking to, being able to paint the bigger vision. So know your audience, first of all. Like if you're talking to an angel investor, they're probably less concerned with like a $1 billion idea. If you're talking to a venture capitalist, they are concerned about a $1 billion idea. Like if you don't have a big enough opportunity, they're not interested. And for us, wedding dresses, it's a $3 billion industry, but it's not. It doesn't scream $1 billion idea to them. And so our challenge is to explain how what we're doing can grow beyond what we're doing if, in fact, we do want to work with venture capitalists. If we're just working with angels, it's being able to clearly articulate like, this is what we've done so far with these resources. All you need to do is add more resources, and this is what we can do. And so it sounds really oversimplified, but if you can get your business to a clear equation that is like, you know, it costs me $10 to acquire a customer, I make $30 off of them, I, you know, had this much money and acquired this many customers and made this much, you know, in revenue or sales or whatever, and all I need to do is get more money and then I'll be able to produce this. That's what they want to hear. They just want it to be a clear, scalable, repeatable equation. So like so one thing for us that we sort of didn't have the advantage of doing, but depending on your business model, if you have the opportunity to kind of like hyper localize whatever you're building and say like, in this region, we were able to, you know, generate this, investors understand very clearly how that scales. Like they're like, okay, I just need to give them enough money to go into every other region. So like for us, it was hard for us to be able to say like, we're a national business and we've only done this. They're kind of like, well, what is there left? Like it's harder for them to imagine getting like more market share than it is if we had like 80% penetration in Washington, D.C. and could show kind of a geographic scaling. So that was probably a challenge for us. And what in Techstars, we kind of have the opportunity to kind of prove them wrong and show them really cool numbers.
So are you guys coming back to Washington, D.C. after your stay in Boulder?
Not sure yet. We don't know. So 2 of my team members are in Athens, Georgia. So it's more just, am I going to Athens or going to D.C. or potentially even Charlottesville? I don't know. So we'll see.
Do we have any other questions for Stephanie? About any advice for us as kind of high school and college entrepreneurs looking to build businesses?
Yeah, so the question was advice as you guys are thinking of building a company in the future. Is that what you're saying? So like, what should you be doing now, or like
as young entrepreneurs, like, yeah, what should we be doing now? What should we be getting out of our college education? What should we be thinking about?
Yeah, so first thing, build great relationships. So the relationships are going to be huge. Build them with your classmates, with your professors. So most of the doors, so I actually am working on this company because of one of my professors at UVA. So I was working at Living Social. I decided to quit my job and start my own company. I came back and spoke with one of my professors, getting advice from him. He told me to meet with Brendan Richardson, who is a professor. Brendan is now my advisor, and he, you know, I check in with him super regularly. He's extremely, extremely helpful. He put me in contact with who are now my co-founders. So that kind of like chain of events basically led me to this opportunity. And so place a lot of value in those relationships. I would say the other thing is anytime you have the opportunity to like get as deep into a startup as you can. So whether that's like interning and like shadowing a CEO or like shadowing a CTO or like whatever it is, I think that one of your biggest challenges as a student is to get sort of that like real world perspective, because like building a company is like very much experience based and like less academic. Like academic is like a huge component of it, and I think UVA does a really fabulous job of like teaching through its curriculum how to kind of build a company and like work in the real world. But as much as you can, like actually get that experience. And I would say like, who cares if you get paid? It'll be like from a relationship standpoint and from just to be able to have that perspective and to learn how to think is huge.
Awesome. Well, we don't want to take up too much more of your time, but thank you so much for speaking with us.
Yeah, no problem. This was great. And y'all can email me anytime with questions. I guess I can give you guys my email address. Maybe Brian, you can email it out, or
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Great.
Please ask any questions. Happy to stay in touch.
Great. Okay, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.